Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're plunging right into the vibrant, sometimes turbulent, and always fascinating heart of India. Look, this nation of over 1 billion people, it's just this dynamic tapestry, right? Woven with incredible triumphs, significant challenges, and just incredibly rapid transformations. We'll be cutting through the noise, pulling from a really curated stack of articles, reports, expert notes, you name it, to bring you the most important nuggets of knowledge and insight from recent headlines. Our mission, well, it's simple, really, to give you a true shortcut to being well informed on a nation that, let's face it, consistently makes global waves. We want to help you understand not just what's happening, but crucially, why it matters and what it might mean for the bigger picture.
Yeah, it's truly remarkable when you step back and just observe the sheer breadth of events that are shaping India right now. We'll be exploring, well, everything from the electrifying energy you see in the sporting arenas where new heroes are forged to the much quieter, more nuanced battles for information control happening in digital spaces. And then, of course, the grand high-stakes discussions on economic power playing out at global summits. What emerges, I think, is a truly comprehensive picture. It really showcases how deeply domestic developments are interwoven with international relations. So get ready to connect some very interesting dots as we navigate India's journey, really at the forefront of global change.
Okay, let's begin where national pride often shines brightest: the world of sports. And we absolutely have to kick off with a monumental moment in Indian cricket. India recently achieved a landmark 336-run victory over England in the second test at Edgbaston. A huge win. And this sensationally leveled the series 1. Now, this wasn't just any victory. This marks India's first ever test triumph at Edgbaston, ever. To put that into perspective, before this match, their record at this venue was frankly dismal. 7 losses and only 1 draw in 8 previous attempts. It was, for all intents and purposes, considered a jinxed ground for them.
Absolutely jinx. That's the word people use. And the absolute standout performer in this historic match, well, it was undoubtedly the fast bowler Akash Deep. He delivered just a phenomenal performance, claiming 6 wickets for 99 runs in the second innings alone, which contributed to an impressive 10 wickets in the match overall. And this wasn't just a great spell, mind you. It was his maiden 5-wicket haul in Test cricket.
Yeah.
A truly career-defining moment for the young man.
Right, a maiden 5-4 in that context. Incredible.
And the significance of this victory, it extends far beyond just leveling a series at 1-1. It's really about breaking a profound psychological barrier. For Indian cricket fans, and I imagine for the team itself, Edgbaston had become almost this cursed ground, a symbol of their struggles in overseas conditions. So overcoming such a deeply entrenched history of losses, 7 and 8 attempts, as you said, it demonstrates not just improved skill, which is obviously there, but immense mental resilience.
Mental strength, yeah.
Exactly. This victory is a powerful statement. It's a team that has learned to conquer its past disappointments, its ghosts, if you will. And they're now exuding confidence even in these challenging foreign environments. It's a real testament to their growth, their belief in their abilities, and crucially, their capacity to adapt.
That idea of a redemption arc really resonates here, doesn't it? Because just 3 years prior, at this very same Edgbaston venue, England pulled off what was then their highest fourth innings chase ever against India. They reeled in an astonishing 378 runs, I remember that. And that was a moment of just bitter disappointment for India, a crushing defeat.
Oh, absolutely devastating at the time.
So to return to that very ground and not just win, but deliver such a commanding performance, basically turning that previous heartbreak into this resounding triumph, it speaks volumes. It's not just about winning one match. It's about a team conquering a really deeply ingrained memory, a negative association, and demonstrating a profound leap in their collective character.
Precisely. You've nailed it. And Akash Deep's emergence is absolutely central to this narrative of redemption and breakthrough. You can't separate them. His pivotal role cannot be overstated. Bagging 6 wickets in the second innings, 10 across the match, culminating in his first 5-wicket haul, it didn't just dramatically shift the momentum of the series, it etched his name into the annals of national sporting history instantly.
Yeah, he's a hero now.
He single-handedly dismantled England's chase of that daunting 608 runs. I mean, that target was improbable to begin with, let's be honest. But his aggressive, incisive bowling transformed it into an almost, well, humiliating rout for the home side. We saw those key moments, didn't we? Like Jamie Smith's spirited 88. Yeah. He showed defiance, but ultimately fell, attempting that third consecutive 6 off deep. A real moment.
Trying to hit his way out of trouble, yeah.
And then there was Bryden Carsey's aggressive but ultimately short-lived 38. Both crucial wickets fell to deep. And it culminated, fittingly, with Captain Shubman Gill taking that final catch that sealed the historic win. So this wasn't just individual brilliance, though it was brilliant. It was a performance that inspired and propelled the entire team.
Deep's performance really showcases how a single player's breakthrough can not only dictate the immediate outcome of a series, but also fundamentally reshape the narrative around an entire team. It changes how they're perceived, how they perceive themselves. It sends a clear message, doesn't it, of renewed strength and depth in India's fast bowling attack, which, as we know, is always absolutely crucial for success in overseas conditions, especially in England.
Critical. Absolutely critical.
So with the series now beautifully poised at 1-1, this commanding breakthrough has undeniably set an electric tone for the remaining tests. The anticipation from fans must be, well, through the roof, just waiting to see if India can carry this momentum forward.
Oh, the buzz is palpable. And this historic victory, it really amplifies India's status as a truly formidable test-playing nation, globally. It signals that they are no longer merely a powerhouse on their home grounds, which they've been for a while, but they're a team increasingly equipped to compete and, importantly, win consistently in diverse conditions around the world. This particular triumph, given the whole Edgbaston history, is a powerful psychological blow to England. And conversely, a massive confidence boost for India.
Huge boost.
The series is now incredibly finely poised. It transforms every ball, every session, into a really high-stakes encounter from here on out. And that emotional, that psychological advantage gained by this unprecedented win, it could prove monumental for the remainder of the tour. It might even set a new precedent for how India approaches future overseas challenges. It could be a watershed moment.
It really could. So, for you listening, what does a victory like this, breaking such a long-standing pattern of failure, tell us about resilience and, the power of overcoming historical obstacles? Not just in sports, obviously, but perhaps even in our own lives. It's a powerful lesson, I think, in perseverance and adapting to challenges. Okay, from the cricket pitch to the boxing ring now, India's sporting successes are truly multifaceted and, frankly, quite impressive lately. We also have to talk about Sakshi's incredible triumph at the World Boxing Cup. India secured its first gold medal at the 2025 World Boxing Cup in Astana, Kazakhstan, and it was thanks to the two-time youth world champion, Sakshi. She delivered a dominant performance in the women's 54-kilogram final, really dominant, decisively defeating USA's Yoslain Perez by a unanimous decision from all 5 judges. Clean sweep.
Unanimous, yeah. That tells you something.
And overall, the Indian contingent has amassed an impressive total of 11 medals at the tournament so far. This builds on a strong showing at the first leg in Brazil, where they earned 6 medals, including 1 gold and 1 silver. So there's momentum here.
There absolutely is. And Sakshi's individual brilliance in that final really stand out. Her relentless aggression and precision, as reports described it, were key to securing that unanimous decision. It showcases a real mastery of her craft. But this victory, it's important to see it as more than just an isolated personal achievement. It signifies India's growing prowess on the international boxing stage. It's becoming a force. It's a clear indicator of, well, strategic and sustained investment in identifying, nurturing, and developing boxing talent within the country. This isn't just accidental success cropping up. It's the result of focused effort and likely effective training programs paying off.
Right. It suggests a system is working, and it extends far beyond just Sakshi's gold, as you mentioned, the 11 medals. The broader performance of the Indian contingent highlights a significant depth of talent across various weight categories. That's key. While Sakshi was the sole gold medalist in that specific Sunday session, we saw Meenakshi's valiant effort in the 48-kilogram final. She narrowly lost 3.2 to Kazakhstan's Nazim Kazaibe. I mean, a truly nail-biting finish that shows just how close they are to securing even more gold medals.
Agonizingly close, but still a silver, still a huge achievement.
Exactly. And then Jugnu in the men's 85 kilograms and Pujarani in the women's 80 kilograms, they both battled fiercely to earn silver medals as well. These are all incredibly strong performances that collectively indicate a robust and expanding pipeline of athletes. It signals a bright future, doesn't it, for Indian boxing?
It really does. This signals considerable future momentum. And the fact that 4 other Indian boxers, including the Brazil leg gold winner Hitesh Gulia in the men's 70 kilograms, were scheduled to compete for medals later in the evening session. That speaks volumes about India's depth and competitiveness across multiple categories, not just 1 or 2 stars. This is a significant shift, I think, in India's sporting landscape overall. It demonstrates that the country is not merely relying on 1 or 2 marquee athletes in a given sport, but actively building a strong, broad-based foundation across various weight categories. This multifaceted success points to a more holistic approach to sports development.
So Sakshi's gold is clearly seen as a powerful catalyst for India's broader boxing ambitions then. It beautifully showcases this blend of youthful talent, she's a two-time youth champ, and strategic preparation that is demonstrably paying dividends. What does this broader surge in success in sports beyond cricket, which has historically dominated the national sporting conversation in India, what does that suggest about India's evolving national priorities and perhaps its investments?
That's a great question. Because a surge in success in a particular sport like boxing, it isn't just about the individual athletes or those isolated victories. It often tells us a great deal about a country's strategic investment in its youth, its infrastructure, and, frankly, its global aspirations. This broadening of sporting success beyond cricket is a strong indicator of a more mature and diversified sporting ecosystem taking shape in India. It implies focused efforts, probably over years, on identifying talent early, providing access to world-class training facilities, maybe coaching, and perhaps even consciously leveraging sports diplomacy on the global stage as a form of soft power.
Interesting angle, the soft power.
Yeah, I mean, it's about national pride expanding into new arenas. It's demonstrating a diverse set of capabilities. It projects an image of a nation that is developing across many fronts, not just economically or militarily. It speaks to a concerted effort to foster excellence in new domains, elevating India's presence and influence in the international sporting landscape in a way that cricket alone perhaps couldn't.
Okay, shifting gears now. From the triumphs, the very clear triumphs of the sports arena, let's explore the complexities of the digital frontier. And we have to start with a concerning development regarding information control. The Reuters news account on X, formerly Twitter, and also its Reuters World account, they became inaccessible to users in India this past Saturday, July 5th. Just vanished for Indian users. What's truly striking, and frankly baffling, is the notice that appeared on the account. It stated it was, and I quote, withheld in India in response to a legal demand.
Yeah, and this incident is just marked by a profound ambiguity and, frankly, a disturbing lack of transparency. How can a major global news outlet, Reuters, with over 25 million followers worldwide, be suddenly suspended in a specific region with a notice clearly indicating a legal demand, yet the Indian government itself denies issuing any such request?
Right, that's the bizarre part.
A spokesperson for the Press Information Bureau, the PIB, clarified quite clearly no agency had instructed X to block the account, and they affirmed ongoing efforts to resolve the issue. So this immediately raises a crucial question. Who precisely made this legal demand? And why is there such a glaring disconnect and lack of clarity from, well, all the parties seemingly involved, the platform, the government, the news source? The opacity of these mechanisms is deeply, deeply troubling.
It certainly is. And Reuters itself stated they could not determine the nature of the legal demand. They didn't know what content was supposedly problematic or even where the demand originated from. And perhaps most concerningly, ex-representatives just did not respond to inquiries for further clarification. Silence from the platform. This lack of explanation implies these opaque mechanisms are at play behind content removal on social media platforms. It leaves both the news organization, a major one, and the public completely in the dark. So when an influential news source like Reuters, relied upon by millions, goes dark without any clear explanation of why or by whom, what profound questions does that raise for your ability as a listener to stay informed? And crucially, to trust the information you access online. It fundamentally challenges the integrity of the digital information ecosystem we all rely on.
Absolutely. And this sudden, unexplained suspension carries significant implications for freedom of information and the freedom of the press in the digital age, particularly within a large democracy like India, where access to diverse news sources is vital. Now, X's stated policy, as was noted in an email they sent to Reuters back on May 16th, is apparently to notify account holders when a legal request is received from an authorized entity. They're supposed to provide context for the action. The fact that Reuters was apparently not informed, or if the nature of the demand remains completely obscured, fundamentally contradicts this stated policy.
It directly contradicts it.
So this raises that important question again. In the digital realm, who truly controls the flow of information? Who has the power? And critically, where does accountability truly lie when information is withheld from public view? When a major news outlet is effectively silenced in a region without clear justification, such opaque actions place a significant burden of trust on these platform providers. And when that trust is eroded, as it is here, it affects everyone's access to reliable information.
It absolutely does. It's a chilling reminder, isn't it, of the potential for powerful platforms and perhaps unseen forces to control narratives. And it underscores the vulnerability of even the most established news organizations within this global digital ecosystem. Very worrying. And speaking of controlling information or maybe manipulating it, misinformation, our next story takes us into the increasingly sophisticated realm of disinformation warfare. France is actively defending the reputation of its Rafale fighter jet against what it alleges is a coordinated and sophisticated Chinese disinformation campaign. Now, this campaign reportedly escalated following those India-Pakistan clashes back in May 2025. French intelligence concluded that Chinese defense attachés were actually leveraging diplomatic channels to actively discourage Rafale purchases. They were particularly targeting key potential buyers like Indonesia, while simultaneously promoting Chinese alternatives.
Yeah, and what's particularly revealing here, I think, is the sheer scale and the sophistication of this alleged campaign. Over 1,000 social media accounts were specifically identified as spreading manipulated images. They were leveraging AI-generated content, deepfakes perhaps, and even using video game simulations. Think about that. All of this content was meticulously designed to promote Chinese weaponry and, crucially, to highlight perceived failures or vulnerabilities of the Rafale jet. This isn't just, casual propaganda or some random online opinions. It sounds like a highly sophisticated, weaponized use of digital tools aimed squarely at influencing major defense contracts and, by extension, geopolitical alignments. It really feels like a new frontier of economic and strategic competition being fought online.
The stakes here are incredibly high, aren't they? Extending far beyond just commercial competition. And the precise context of those India-Pakistan clashes is crucial, as you mentioned. Oh. Pakistan initially claimed to have downed 5 Indian aircraft, including significantly 3 Rafales. That claim was vehemently disputed by France. The French Air Force chief later confirmed the loss of only 1 Rafale, 1 Mirage 2000, and 1 Sukhoi jet. So this discrepancy really highlights the military and the reputational stakes involved. Every piece of information or misinformation can be used as a weapon in this environment.
Absolutely. And this isn't just a war of words, as you say. It's a direct economic subversion campaign, according to the French. That's a critical point to grasp. France has sold a substantial number of Rafales, 533 in total, with 323 of those going to international clients. This makes the Rafale a hugely strategic export for them. It bolsters not only their economy, but also their diplomatic and industrial ties, particularly in a crucial region like Asia. So when disinformation is allegedly weaponized in this manner, it's not just for political propaganda points. It's framed as a direct economic attack designed to damage arms sales, potentially to weaken Western influence in vital regions like the Indo-Pacific, and ultimately clear the path for Chinese defense exports to fill that void. This truly is modern economic warfare being fought in the information space, leveraging digital tools for tangible financial and strategic gains.
And the nature of this modern warfare, as you described it, the sophistication, it's truly concerning. Using manipulated images, AI content, and video game simulations, it demonstrates a frightening evolution in information warfare tactics. This isn't just about spreading fake news in the traditional sense anymore, is it? It's about generating deepfakes, creating entirely fabricated realities or narratives to influence geopolitical and economic outcomes on a grand scale. What does this tell us about the evolving landscape of information warfare and its profound impact on global defense commerce, on trust between nations?
Well, it undeniably highlights how cutting-edge technology, particularly artificial intelligence, is increasingly being weaponized in these sorts of conflicts, these gray zone conflicts. Furthermore, France's defense ministry views the Rafale not just as a plane, but as a symbol of national technological autonomy. It represents French prowess. This raises an important question. How does a nation's identity, its pride, and its technological prowess become a direct target in such sophisticated campaigns? It seems like a deliberate effort to undermine not just the product, but the nation's perceived capabilities and influence on a global scale.
Undermining confidence.
Exactly. This isn't merely a battle for market share, it's a battle for narrative, for geopolitical alignment, and for the very perception of power. And it's all being fought through digital means. It's a stark reminder, I think, that the battlefields of tomorrow are as much digital as they are physical, with truly profound implications for international relations and trust.
Sticking with the theme of technology and its, well, surprising applications, let's talk about something truly unique that's emerging in India: the AI influencer. Collective Artist Company has recently launched India's first AI travel influencer named Ratika Subramaniam. She's described as remarkably fluent in both English and Tamil, which is interesting for regional reach. And she's designed to offer immersive travel guides with a particular focus on India's hidden gems, things like small town festivals, unique roadside crafts, local cafes, rather than just the big tourist hotspots.
So moving beyond the Taj Mahal circuit, basically.
Exactly. And what's truly fascinating is how her persona is meticulously crafted. She's designed to be relatable, presenting herself as someone who supposedly left a corporate job to explore the world, the dream for many, right? Always curious, down to earth, and perpetually on vacation. She's specifically designed, they say, for Gen Z audiences, functioning as a kind of virtual companion, capable of responding in sync with a user's language and even their tone.
This whole concept of an AI travel influencer is genuinely groundbreaking. It makes you stop and think. The immediate reaction might be, how authentic can something non-human truly be, especially in travel, which is so experiential? But the unique advantages of an AI influencer like Radhika are quite remarkable. They really push the boundaries of what we consider influence. As the creators point out, she doesn't require a passport or physical presence, making her travel narratives limitless and hyper-accessible. This fundamentally challenges traditional norms around human influencers and destination marketing in a very direct way.
It really does.
She could theoretically be anywhere, at any time, providing content, personalized recommendations without any of the physical or logistical constraints that limit human creators. Visas, flight costs, time zones, none of that applies. This opens up entirely new possibilities for content creation and potentially massive global reach.
It's certainly a potential game changer for how content is produced and consumed, isn't it? And they've clearly put a tremendous amount of thought into crafting her personality and her backstory. They're actively working to build an emotional connection with users, they claim, and offer what they call authentic travel advice, despite her not being a real person. This raises a compelling and, let's be honest, perhaps slightly unsettling question. What does this mean for our evolving perception of authenticity in the influencer space? Can something non-human truly provide authentic advice? Or is our definition of authenticity itself now being redefined? Maybe it's becoming more about the relatability, the personalization, the perceived expertise, regardless of whether the source is flesh and blood.
That's the crux of it, isn't it? Is
Yeah.
authenticity about the source or the perceived value of the output?
It forces us to reconsider the very nature of human-digital interaction and what we value in advice.
It's a fascinating redefinition. And importantly, this isn't just a standalone Indian phenomenon. Radhika's launch connects to a broader global trend. We saw Germany launch Emma back in 2023, remember, an AI ambassador specifically designed to promote tourism for Germany. So this signifies a larger global movement in what you might call tech-enabled storytelling, where these AI-driven personalities are designed to guide users through nuanced, culturally rich experiences, but without any physical boundaries. It's an interesting and complex blend of cutting-edge technology and cultural immersion. It could pave the way for entirely new forms of engagement and exploration, all mediated through digital platforms.
Her role, Radhika's role, unequivocally signals a significant shift in how travel content might be produced, consumed, and personalized in the future. Beyond just the convenience factor, could her presence actually inspire a new generation of explorers to seek meaning beyond landmarks? Focusing more on the stories, the connections, the curiosity, even if those stories are ultimately delivered by an AI. It's a truly fascinating glimpse into the very near future of digital interaction, I think. So, for you listening, what does an AI travel influencer like Radhika mean for the concept of authenticity in travel content? And how might it change your personal approach to planning your next adventure? Would you trust her recommendations?
Would you interact with her?
Exactly. It certainly makes you pause and think about the nature of the advice you seek and ultimately trust. Okay, now let's pivot from the digital world to the grand stage of geopolitics and socioeconomic realities. Big picture stuff. At the 17th annual BRICS Summit, which convened in Rio de Janeiro just recently, on July 6th, 2025, leaders from the bloc, that's Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, and importantly, the newly added members like Iran and Indonesia, they issued a unified and strong objection to U.S. President Donald Trump's latest import tariffs.
A very coordinated message.
Yes. The summit's final statement condemned the rise of unilateral tariff and non-tariff measures, explicitly calling them illegal, arbitrary, and detrimental to global economic development. Strong language.
Very strong. And a key aspect to consider here is the BRICS bloc's expanding influence in global governance. That's undeniable. It's clearly underscored by the inclusion of these new members, Iran and Indonesia. These additions significantly bolster their collective voice and their economic heft on the international stage. However, it's also important to note the impact or potential impact of certain absences. Chinese President Xi Jinping wasn't there physically, nor was Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian, and Russian President Vladimir Putin participated virtually. Now, while their physical or virtual absence might somewhat diminish the summit's political weight in certain diplomatic circles, the unified front they presented against U.S. tariffs still sends an incredibly powerful and undeniable message about a shifting global economic order. They still got the statement out.
Right, the statement itself is the key takeaway. And the careful phrasing of that declaration is very telling, isn't it? While they deliberately avoided directly naming the U.S. or President Trump, the declaration unmistakably targeted those recent threats by the administration. Threats to impose sweeping duties unless new trade deals are reached by an August 1 deadline. The target was clear, even if unnamed. This suggests a strategic choice, doesn't it? A desire to confront what they perceive as Western economic dominance and protectionism, while simultaneously attempting to maintain diplomatic channels, perhaps, and avoid an outright, full-blown trade war.
It feels like strategic ambiguity, yeah.
Yeah.
How do Trump's August 1 deadline threats and the preceding volatility we saw in global financial markets, how do those underscore the palpable urgency of their concerns? It feels like they were pushed towards this unified condemnation.
It seems they're responding to very real, immediate economic pressures that affect all of them.
Absolutely. This coordinated stance points to a collective economic strategy rather than, say, a direct aggressive confrontation, at least for now. The urgency is certainly palpable because these threatened tariffs have very real, potentially devastating impacts on their respective economies. It's not abstract. So the declaration signifies a concerted effort to push back against protectionist measures that they collectively view as destabilizing global trade and hindering equitable development for the global South, largely. But what's also crucial to acknowledge, alongside this unity, are the, well, controversial stances and internal divisions that, despite their unified economic fronts, still persist within the bloc. They don't agree on everything.
No, far from it.
Brazil's President Lula da Silva, for example, was very direct. He accused NATO of promoting an arms race and Israel of committing genocide in Gaza.
Yeah.
Very strong words. Furthermore, Iran received diplomatic backing from BRICS members for its stance against recent U.S. and Israeli military strikes. These divergences on major geopolitical issues highlight the complex internal dynamics at play. It's not a monolithic bloc politically.
Right. So even with those undeniable divisions, particularly on highly sensitive issues like the Gaza war or internal institutional reform within BRICS itself, their commitment to multilateralism, at least rhetorically, and their collective pushback against perceived Western economic dominance remains remarkably strong. It suggests a strategic alignment on core economic principles, perhaps, even if political ideologies and foreign policy goals differ significantly sometimes.
That seems right. A convergence of economic interest, maybe. And the significant announcement that the 2026 summit is scheduled to be held in India further underscores BRICS's evolving role on the global stage. Bringing it to Delhi sends a message. This is a clear signal of a shift in the global balance of power, where these emerging economies are increasingly asserting their collective influence more forcefully and visibly. So when we connect this to the broader picture, this BRICS declaration offers profound insights into the shifting global power dynamics and the future trajectory of international trade relations. It's a clear signal that nations are actively seeking to reshape the existing economic order and create alternative, perhaps more inclusive multilateral frameworks, challenging the long-standing unipolar or Western-centric global economic structure.
Okay, from those macroeconomic shifts on the global stage, let's zoom right in now on a truly fascinating domestic economic story, one that actively challenges some very common perceptions about India. According to the latest World Bank Gini Index report, India ranks fourth globally in income equality. Fourth. It scored 25.5 on the Gini Index. Now, that places it firmly in the moderately low inequality bracket, which is defined as between 25 and 30. Just to give you some context, the Gini Index is a statistical measure of income distribution. A score of 0 represents perfect equality, everyone earns the same, and 100 represents perfect inequality, one person has everything.
Right. Lower is better.
Exactly. India's score of 25.5 puts it just behind the Slovak Republic, Slovenia, and Belarus, and remarkably, notably ahead of all G7 and G20 nations. That includes advanced economies like the United States, which scored 41.8, much higher inequality, and China at 35.7.
That is genuinely surprising and quite a remarkable achievement, especially when you consider India's immense population and its vast socioeconomic diversity.
For a country of India's scale, with its incredible range of income levels, regional disparities, deeply entrenched historical social structures, to manage to outperform major global powers like the US and China in income equality is highly significant. It makes you question assumptions. It suggests perhaps a unique and potentially effective approach to development, one that maybe prioritizes a more equitable distribution of wealth alongside rapid economic expansion. It certainly challenges that conventional wisdom that rapid growth inevitably leads to, or must lead to, increased inequality.
Okay, so if this is such a surprising achievement, what specific factors are actually contributing to this progress? How did they get there? The report points to a combination of sustained economic growth, which they've had, and crucially, targeted social policies aimed at poverty reduction and expanding financial access. This implies it's not just about the rising tide lifting all boats, but about intentionally directing some of that lift.
Exactly. It's about the policy choices.
Can you elaborate maybe on how specific initiatives, things like improving financial inclusion, employment schemes, various welfare programs, how have those played such a significant role in bringing about this statistical change?
Yeah, I think this achievement is really a testament to the cumulative impact of deliberate, policy-driven initiatives designed specifically to uplift the most vulnerable segments of society over many years. Financial inclusion, for instance. By systematically bringing more people into the formal banking system, think about programs like Yandu Hanyuana, it allows for things like direct benefit transfers, DBT. It gives access to microcredit, insurance. It fundamentally empowers lower-income households in tangible ways. Similarly, employment generation programs like the Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act, MGNRAGA, provide a crucial safety net by guaranteeing a certain number of days of wage employment, especially in rural areas.
A floor, basically.
A floor, exactly. And then various welfare schemes, focusing on things like food security, subsidized rations, housing support, healthcare access. They act as vital buffers. Collectively, these work to reduce income disparities and improve the living standards of the poorest. And as the Indian government officials have rightly hailed, these aren't just numbers on a page. They see it as evidence of India's successful governance model and commitment to inclusive growth. They are actively portraying India now as a leading example of equitable development. That's the narrative.
And as you said, this ranking is presented as more than just a statistical success. It's meant to reflect real improvements in income distribution. This is potentially a significant moment for India's soft power and its international image, isn't it?
Yeah.
It portrays India as an emerging global leader not only in economic performance but also in social equity, which actively challenges those long-held external perceptions of the country that often focus solely on its stark disparity.
It challenges the poverty narrative, yeah.
So what does this all mean for a country that has historically been perceived, often caricatured, for its vast inequalities? This offers the profound potential for India to serve as a compelling model, perhaps, for other large developing economies that are striving to achieve more equitable growth while simultaneously pursuing rapid economic expansion.
A different path, maybe.
Yeah. It certainly forces a reevaluation of how we understand development and its relationship with equality in the 21st century. Fascinating stuff. Okay, moving from the broad strokes of economics now to the more intricate social dynamics and public safety issues within India. We have a story here that touches on the volatile, sometimes, well, unforgiving world of viral culture and online accountability. Content creator Apurva Mukhija, who is widely known online as the Rebel Kid, recently faced intense public backlash. Multiple FIRs were filed against her, that's first information reports, the formal complaints that initiate police investigations in India. And she's facing an ongoing legal process following her appearance on Samaya Raina's show, India's Got Latent, alongside another popular creator, Ranveer Allahabadiya. Now, in a recent interview with Bollywood Bubble, Apurva openly compared the public and media scrutiny she endured to what actress Rhea Chakraborty faced after Sushant Singh Rajput's tragic death a few years ago.
That's a very pointed comparison. And this incident raises a critical and, frankly, complex question. Where does the responsibility for sensationalist trends truly lie in the digital age? Who's really driving it? Apurva directly criticized the audience. She asserted that their consumption and widespread sharing of sensationalist content directly fuels toxic narratives. And she argues it empowers media platforms to continuously produce polarizing material because, well, it gets clicks. This shifts the focus, doesn't it? From solely blaming the content creator or the media outlet to acknowledging the active, often maybe unwitting role of the consumer in perpetuating these cycles. It forces us perhaps to reflect on our own digital behaviors and how they contribute to the overall content landscape we inhabit.
It's a very powerful point she makes, turning the mirror back on the audience, and by drawing parallels with Rhea Chakraborty's harrowing experience being relentlessly mobbed by the press, subjected to intense online hate. Apoorva argued that consistent attention, whether it's mockery, outrage, or even just curiosity clicks, enables these cycles of pervasive coverage to persist and even intensify, feeding the beast, essentially. This brilliantly highlights the often devastating phenomenon of media trials and their profound impact on individuals who suddenly find themselves caught in the unforgiving crosshairs of digital scrutiny.
Trial by social media.
Exactly. It serves as a stark reminder that every click, every share, every comment, however seemingly innocuous it might feel in the moment, contributes to this powerful and often uncontrollable ecosystem.
Yeah, the cumulative effect. And despite facing this deluge of criticism and relentless trolling, reports suggest Apoorva has remained remarkably composed and resilient, at least publicly. She's framed her journey and the intense scrutiny as, and I quote, life experiences that turn into compelling stories. She even noted, experiences are just stories, they made for great story times. Oh, now this perspective offers a fascinating insight into navigating intense public criticism. How do you maintain your composure and agency in an era where public shaming can be instantaneous, global, and absolutely relentless? It's a form of profound resilience, perhaps, almost a creative reframing of negativity into material for her craft, which could be seen as a powerful coping mechanism in the digital age.
Taking control of the narrative, in a way. So this entire controversy brings renewed and urgent attention to the ethical boundaries in digital media and public discourse. Where are the lines? Apoorva's comments really urge audiences to consciously reconsider their role in sustaining sensationalist trends and these endless outrage cycles. This adds significant depth, I think, to ongoing debates about freedom of expression, yes, but also audience behavior and, crucially, accountability within India's burgeoning and often, let's face it, wild online entertainment space.
That's truly the core takeaway here, isn't it? This whole incident raises an important question for all of us as participants in this digital world. In a landscape increasingly driven by clicks, shares, virality, how do you consciously contribute to, or perhaps more importantly, resist the cycle of outrage-driven content? It's a genuine challenge, I think, to each of us to be more mindful, more critical in terms of digital media, and to understand the immense collective power we wield through our engagement choices, even individually.
Right. Food for thought there. Now, let's shift to a critical public safety development. One that provides a measure of justice, long-awaited justice, for many. The Delhi Police Crime Branch has successfully arrested an alleged serial killer, Ajay Lamba, near India Gate, right on the heart of Delhi, after years of him evading capture. Lamba is accused of leading a chilling gang that murdered multiple cab drivers across Delhi and also in the state of Uttarakhand. The gang's modus operandi, their method of operation, was truly horrifying. They would allegedly pose as ordinary passengers, lure unsuspecting drivers to remote hill areas in Uttarakhand, then render them unconscious, strangle them, and brutally dispose of their bodies in deep ravines. Just horrific.
Chillingly calculated.
And the stolen vehicles, which was a key part of their criminal scheme, were then apparently smuggled across the border into Nepal for resale.
This arrest is a truly major breakthrough in a long-standing and particularly gruesome case, one that has haunted these communities, especially the driver community, for years. The full scope of the crimes is still being uncovered, which is often the case in these situations. While one body has tragically been recovered, authorities fear the gang may be responsible for several other disappearances. The remains of at least 3 more potential victims are still tragically missing. This highlights not only the long-standing nature of these alleged crimes, but also the sheer brutality involved. It's caused immense distress and uncertainty for the families of missing cab drivers for a very protracted period.
And Lama's own criminal profile and his history of evasion are quite extensive, painting a picture of a hardened, elusive criminal. He had apparently successfully hidden out in Nepal for the past decade. That demonstrates his ability to evade capture across international borders. His criminal record reportedly dates all the way back to 2001, including alleged involvement in drug trafficking and robbery across various Indian states like Delhi and Odisha.
A long history.
Yeah. This really illustrates the significant challenges law enforcement faces when confronting cross-border criminal activity and prolonged evasion, especially in a region with relatively porous borders, like between India and Nepal.
Absolutely. And the investigation is intensely ongoing, which is crucial for bringing complete closure and answers to this case. 2 alleged accomplices have already been identified. One, Dhirendra Dilipande, is currently in custody, While another associate, known as Diraj, is still at large, actively being pursued by authorities, police are rigorously interrogating Lamba now to uncover further details, hoping to establish potential links to other missing person cases that have remained unsolved for years. The ultimate goal, of course, is to bring some measure of peace and answers to as many affected families as possible.
This arrest, while undoubtedly a significant triumph for law enforcement and a real testament to their persistence over years, has also understandably raised concerns about safety in the transport sector, particularly for independent cab drivers who often work alone and in vulnerable situations. What does an incident of this nature, revealing such a brutal and calculated pattern of crime targeting a specific profession, what does that mean for the safety of those working in the gig economy? And for the overall public sense of security, both in major cities like Delhi and in more remote areas like Uttarakhand?
It definitely sends a shiver down your spine. The arrest of a serial offender after years on the run is an impactful moment for any community. And it truly reveals the relentless, often unseen work and dedication that goes into solving these complex, long-standing cases, where law enforcement must often pursue leads across multiple jurisdictions, sometimes internationally, over many, many years. It's painstaking work.
Indeed. Okay, now let's turn our attention to high-stakes diplomacy and regional tensions. Always a complex area. We'll start with a deeply sensitive issue that carries profound geopolitical ramifications: the Dalai Lama succession. Tensions have recently escalated between India and China following direct statements about the reincarnation process of the Dalai Lama. China's ambassador to India, Xu Hong, explicitly dismissed the Dalai Lama's assertion that Beijing would have no role in selecting his successor. He flatly rejected that. Ambassador Xu emphatically reiterated Beijing's long-standing position that the reincarnation process is purely an internal affair of China.
Their standard line, yeah.
Furthermore, Yu directly criticized an Indian Union minister, Kiran Rijiju, for his public support of the Tibetan spiritual leader's stance. China viewed Rijiju's comments as external interference, despite the minister clarifying that his comments were made in a personal capacity, as a Buddhist devotee, not in his official government role.
Yeah, but in diplomacy, the line between personal and official can get very blurry, especially for a minister. What stands out here fundamentally is the clash between China's sovereignty claims and the Dalai Lama's spiritual authority. China adamantly insists that its central government holds exclusive authority over religious designations, including reincarnations. They emphasize Tibet, which they consistently refer to as Xizang, as an inalienable part of China, full stop. Now, this stance directly contradicts the Dalai Lama's prior statements that he alone would determine his reincarnation, and crucially, his statement that it would not occur in Chinese-controlled territory if Tibet is not free. So this isn't merely a doctrinal dispute or some abstract theological debate. It's a profound battle for control over a deeply spiritual and politically charged lineage, and has massive implications for regional stability and international power dynamics.
And India finds itself caught in a truly delicate balancing act here, doesn't it? Right in the middle. They responded to the Chinese criticism by reiterating that India as a state holds no official position on issues of faith and religion, trying to sidestep it, attempting to maintain a neutral stance amidst this growing friction. But why is India so directly caught in the crosshairs of this deeply sensitive issue, particularly given its long history of hosting the Dalai Lama and the Tibetan government in exile since 1959?
They've provided refuge for decades.
Exactly. And what are the broader diplomatic implications when even a supposedly personal comment from a government minister sparks such a reaction from Beijing? It clearly demonstrates the incredibly tightrope they must walk between supporting a revered spiritual leader they host and managing a powerful, assertive neighbor like China.
That's precisely the tension, the tightrope. This standoff is not just a doctrinal issue. It profoundly underscores a larger geopolitical and spiritual contest between China and the Tibetan movement. And it has far-reaching implications for sovereignty, for religious rights, and for international influence over what are ultimately deeply personal and spiritual decisions. China views any external commentary or perceived interference on the Dalai Lama's succession as a direct infringement on its sovereignty and a fundamental challenge to its authority over Tibet. This long-standing issue becomes a flashpoint precisely because it touches upon these fundamental questions of control, identity, and the ability of a state to dictate religious and cultural practices within its borders. It's a powerful illustration, I think, of how a deeply spiritual question can become a major point of international diplomatic friction.
Especially between two giants.
especially between two nuclear-armed neighbors like India and China. It raises that important perennial question about the intersection of religion, culture, and state power on the global stage, and how deeply intertwined these seemingly separate spheres can become, especially in this region.
Finally, let's look at another surprising and, frankly, controversial development in the realm of regional tensions. Pakistan's extradition offer, or potential offer. Former Pakistani Foreign Minister Bilawal Bhutto Zardari stated in an interview with Al Jazeera that Pakistan was open, potentially, to extraditing terrorists like Hafiz Saeed and Masood Azhar to India. He framed this as a possible confidence-building measure,
Hmm.
and part of broader efforts, he said, to foster regional trust and improve bilateral relations, but explicitly stating it was contingent on New Delhi's reciprocal willingness. A quid pro quo, perhaps.
Yeah, the contingency is key there. And the interesting dimension here is dissecting the true nature of this offer. Can this genuinely be considered a strategic olive branch, a real attempt aimed at building genuine peace and trust? Or is it perhaps more of a calculated political maneuver, maybe intended for domestic consumption, or perhaps international signaling rather than a serious offer to India? India has long, consistently demanded decisive action against terrorism originating from within Pakistan, and specifically targeting these high-profile figures like Hafiz Saeed, who is widely alleged by India and others to be involved in the horrific 2008 Mumbai attacks. So the mere mention of individuals of concern by Bilawal, if it genuinely includes such notorious figures, would indeed represent a monumental shift in Pakistan's stance, if true. But the crucial question remains, is it more than just words? Does the political will actually exist within the Pakistani establishment to follow through on something so contentious?
And we saw immediate domestic backlash, didn't we? Almost as soon as the words left his mouth in that interview. Hafiz Saeed's own son, Tala Saeed, publicly condemned Bilawal's remarks. He asserted they brought global disgrace to Pakistan and undermined national dignity. Strong reaction. What does this swift and very strong domestic pushback reveal about the sensitive nature of counterterrorism diplomacy in the region? And perhaps more importantly, the deep political divisions within Pakistan regarding how to handle these high-profile figures like Saeed.
Figures seen by some as liabilities, by others perhaps differently.
Exactly. It starkly illustrates just how entrenched and complex the issue of accountability for these individuals is within Pakistan itself.
Which realistically makes any such offer incredibly difficult, maybe impossible, to implement politically. That intense domestic backlash immediately signals that such a move, even if it were serious in intent from Bilawal's side, would face immense internal resistance, likely significant political fallout within Pakistan. This means that without concrete commitments or robust legal mechanisms in place, things like extradition treaties being fully operational for such cases, and without the political backing to overcome these internal hurdles, the proposal remains largely speculative and politically charged, rather than an actionable diplomatic breakthrough. Just talk, perhaps. The observable lack of immediate governmental follow-through so far, despite Bilawal's bold public statement, certainly suggests significant practical and political hurdles to its implementation. It hasn't gone anywhere officially. This raises that important question. Could Bilawal's comments reflect internal political maneuvering? Maybe an attempt to gain leverage domestically, or perhaps an attempt to reshape Pakistan's global image on the international stage by appearing conciliatory without any real intention or ability to deliver.
Right. When a significant diplomatic statement, an apparently major offer, faces such immediate and intense domestic uproar, what does that tell you, the listener, about the complex web of internal politics constantly intersecting with international relations? It's never simple. Are such statements genuine overtures, real attempts at peace? Or are they more about internal signaling to different factions within their own country, maybe testing the waters or just scoring political points?
It's hard to know the real motive.
Exactly. This issue continues to stir intense debate on accountability, on bilateral engagement, and on regional security. And it means that the perpetually fraught relationship between India and Pakistan and the broader regional stability remains deeply uncertain, impacted as much, it seems, by internal dynamics within each country as by external diplomacy between them. Wow. What a profound deep dive that was. We've covered a lot of ground. From the resounding cheers of India's historic cricket victory and that fantastic boxing gold that clearly uplifted national spirits, to the silent, worrying implications of digital censorship and the complex, high-stakes maneuvers of international diplomacy that are shaping India's global standing, We'd explored the very real challenges of managing sophisticated disinformation campaigns, which seems like a growing threat globally. We examined those surprising statistics of economic equality that really challenge common perceptions. And we confronted the grim realities of public safety with the arrest of that notorious alleged serial killer after so many years. India, as we've seen again today, is truly a nation of immense contrasts, dynamically driving innovation, asserting its influence, while simultaneously navigating these deeply rooted historical and political tensions, both internally and externally.
Absolutely. As we wrap up this deep dive, it's just so clear that these seemingly disparate headlines, they feel disconnected sometimes, right? Whether it's about a serial killer's arrest or the future of AI influencers or high-stakes BRICS negotiations, they all actually contribute to a larger, incredibly intricate narrative about India's rapidly evolving role in the world. India is not just reacting to global events anymore, it is actively shaping them, even as its own internal dynamics are equally influential on its path forward. So as you reflect on this rich and complex tapestry of events we've discussed today, maybe consider this. What emerging trends do you see shaping India's future? And by extension, our interconnected global landscape, based on these diverse developments we've touched upon, how might a nation's internal resilience, its challenges, its strategic shifts, continue to reverberate across continents and influence our shared future? Lots to think about.